Hello guys, so today we're going to be fighting a Skarn, which is a Terra behemoth, so you're going to want to use shock weapon and Terra armor. And so we're going to do a private hunt because it's easier without other people. Now, if you want to go for max tank, Skarn armor is the best because it only has defensive cells. So like I have +6 Guardian, +6 Tough, +5 Fortress, and +5 Sturdy, which again isn't like, you're not going to have this towards the beginning of the game, but it really is helpful towards the end of the game. And actually what I am going to do is I'm going to, so it doesn't, and again, use a shock weapon. Doesn't really matter what shock weapon you use. I'm thinking about changing my shock weapon. So Stormclaw, Drask, that one has... Yeah, so like you're gonna want to look like see +4% life steal against wounded parts, which my thing does a lot of does good for wounding. So yeah, so basically use any Terra armor. I like the max tank. Helps you a lot, gives you a lot of health, gives you a lot of shields and stuff like that. Now for the hint, it says Skarn's rock armor is reinforced and tough to break. Use blunt damage to destroy it faster. So like basically using your normal attacks like your sword, hammer, whatever weapon you're using. Now I'm using a war pike, which isn't really the best against it because war pikes wound and don't break a lot of parts, but since I have higher level stuff, it's gonna break easily. But it's good to have an axe or a hammer on your team to break those parts and expose the actual body, because then you'll do a lot of damage. Swords are also good. So, again, this one might be a little bit longer, kind of like the Boreas, because it gets an ice shield. But usually the tankier behemoths are most of the time they're easier, but they're just take a long time to kill. So we're gonna collect these herbs. And see, it kind of looks like an aether vent. So there's the aether vent to the left, and that's the Skarn. So, and it's gonna come up from the ground, and it's covered in armor, so you can hit it a couple times. See, I'm not doing a lot of damage, and then it's gonna do this battle cry where it's gonna swing back. So you can see I'm doing a lot more damage when I'm actually. And when he leans to the right, he's gonna swing, and his armor's gonna come off, so you can hit him a couple times. Now I'm using the Drask Lantern, which I can shoot a fireball, and then the instant is doing more damage. When he does this, you can hit him in the head, but I just like doing this, and it stuns him. But you can hit him in the head with a missile or anything like that, and it'll kind of stun him, so you can get extra damage on. Now, sometimes that's a little bit hard to read, but you'll charge forward like that, so you can get some good damage. It's going to lead to the side. I just broke his head, so now his head is exposed. Now I can do a bunch of damage. And when he puts his rocks on one side, he's going to charge that way, but I shocked him, which happens sometimes when you have a shock weapon. It kind of stuns him a little bit, which is kind of nice. So basically, when you break his armor, all of his rock armor is almost the same thing. But once you break the stuff behind the armor, that's when it starts giving you the good break parts, like the head and the tail and stuff. Rock against him. Dodge. And you'll lose a lot of stamina, but hopefully you can get a couple hits. And I broke its leg, so it gives you stone fragments, and it can sometimes give you ominous stone and phoenix opals, which can kind of be nice. When it kind of roars like this, it's turning red, and then it does this. So what it's going to do is it's going to stomp, and then you can dodge, and it's going to send a rock up from the ground. But if you hit a part enough, it's going to fling it out, and you can dodge, and then you can hit it in the head or whatever part it does. So like say I wanted to do over here, and it's going to kind of shake it, and then he's going to fling it out, so now his leg is exposed. Now he's going to go back into formation. Its back leg, and so you keep doing this and you can keep it in good shape. And now he's gonna throw out his tail. Tail is typically the spot where most because even though he has his rock armor, when he kind of puts his armor up, that's when he's getting on enraged. But the tail is like the least reinforced, so sometimes you can hit his skin even though he has rock armor. So it's not a guarantee that you hit his rock armor. You can always hit through his rock armor. Dodge through. Hitting him. When he kind of throws his rocks out, he's going to do a whirlwind. Now I can hit it with a missile, or I can do my spin twirly attack like this, and it'll stun him. But you're gonna want to run away as soon as he starts doing it, because the cyclone will pull you in. And if I use the swing around attack like this, and we kind of bounce around like this, he's gonna run away. But if I do a swing attack when he's close, it's gonna hit me probably, and that does a decent amount of damage. But it'll hit me, and I'll stun it, so I can probably get up and hit it a couple times. So again, when it stomps around like that, it runs away and it burrows into the ground. So it's going to be the same way you find it. It's going to be kind of like an aether vent in the ground, which I think is pretty cool. Doesn't look exactly like an aether vent, but it looks pretty close. So again, we're going to collect the different herbs on our way. And this map is pretty easy to get around because it's just basically like a giant mountain, and you can just keep cycling up and up. So now we see the aether vent, and then we see behind those trees the Skarn, trying to disguise as an aether vent, because that's how it feeds on the Terra Aether. So we're gonna run over here. There's our Thunderbolt. The Thunderbolt goes through the armor, so it like hits the armor and hits the skin under. That's gonna hit us a little bit, but again, we aren't taking almost any damage because our shield is giving us all the protection. So now it's gonna go like this. So we're gonna hit him. We're gonna stun him a little bit. Sometimes when he falls down, it will hit you. So you're gonna want to try to stay away. Stun him again. Our shock weapon. Keep hitting. We just broke his leg. So we got the exposed part. And usually when they're wounded, if you see the little cuts on his body, when you attack there, it does extra damage. But he's now dead. And there you go, that's a Skarn. So basically a lot of the rock armor gives you the same break part, but if you want its head break, you have to break the rock on his head and then break his head. Now see, this took a little bit longer because he has rock armor and I don't have like a hammer or anything. But it's typically one of the easier behemoths to get a handle of. Thank you for watching. Hopefully you learned something. Peace.